Happy Thursday, everybody. Another week, another
Yes.
show.
Yes, welcome to Foundry Weekly.
Yeah, improving past one episode at a time.
Very much. Hey, Nikki, we have a very special milestone today. I don't know if this actually happened a couple weeks back, but we're on episode 50. So CF Weekly is 50 episodes old, and we're past our 1 year mark when we started. So
that's right.
Yeah.
I can already hear people. Well, wait, there's 52 weeks in a year. Well, we took Thanksgiving and stuff like that off, but yeah, we are a year old. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you think we would make it to a year?
I don't know. I was I think I was still. I didn't really think too much about it because Deshaun just said you should start doing this like next week or that week, and I feel like we've just been kind of going forth ever since. So
I feel like we just started this like 3 months ago. So the whole thing about time flying when you're having fun, that is absolutely true. I mean, we've had some great episodes. I'm still jazzed about last week's episode. I'm going to go ahead and remind everybody, if you haven't go see it, go watch Joey's show about AI. And we're seeing AI is it's taken over this show, right? With Gen AI Tile. We're seeing all these different use cases for AI. We're going to be talking more AI today. It's going to be great.
Yeah. I mean, it's, if you don't like AI, I'm sorry, but it's really hard not to talk about it these days with everything going on. So
it's everywhere. It's improving every day. People are coming up with new use cases. I mean, you're right. There's me. I'm still a little bit of a skeptic because I think people are using AI in places that it doesn't need to be used. But you have to admit, it is making life easier for a lot of people. Developers are using it. You got things like Cursor and Aider coming out. You got people that are going in and using MCP to build new tools. I mean, AI is everywhere. And what better place to do AI than Cloud Foundry?
Oh, couldn't have said it better myself. So that's why we're talking about it. And I guess for a little bit of pre-show banter, we just came off the dubbed AI Super Bowl of the I guess it's still happening, is the GTC conference that NVIDIA is hosting. So Jensen's on stage for I think 2 or 3 hours talking about all the cool roadmap stuff. But I did pre-order the Digit Spark, or the DGX
Project
Spark.
Digits.
Yeah, they renamed it to I think Spark. Yeah, so I've got 2 of those on reserve to pre-order. Now, do I actually pull the trigger? I don't know. We'll see if I get the chance. But it's just the hardware's pretty crazy, and we'll see what's going to happen. But yeah.
So they renamed it. So they took a page right out of our book, and just we're going to rename some things when people start getting used to it.
You have a code name before the project's released, and then you have the official project. Gotcha. Right? I don't know.
I got my Turing up and running, so we're going to start playing with that. So I'm going to be talking to you about some things we're going to be doing with the Turing. But got the Turing up and running. That is a handy piece of machinery. That is a lot of fun. I can see myself building a Coon data center just out of these. Kind of swap between you and Deshaun's Pi Army and the Coon data center and make my own. So
we'll just link them all together and make our own cloud.
That sounds like a good plan. Good plan.
Yeah.
All right, man. So today we've got a longtime guest. So he's been on before. We're going to bring him in. And then we've got somebody who tells us that he's a longtime listener, but he's first-time caller. We're going to go ahead and bring him in. We're going to start with Chris Phillipson. Hey, buddy.
Welcome back.
Hey there. How you doing, guys?
Doing good. Looking forward to see what you got. And then we've got Brian Kirkland. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Thank you.
Well, that's a nice Pivotal shirt you got there.
Yeah.
Got to match the Pivotal green.
Yeah.
See, now that's dedication. You painted the wall.
Yeah.
That's dedication. Well, I think that leads us right in, right? So, Brian, longtime listener, first-time caller, you said, what the first question is. What was your first CF push experience?
That's right. So my first CF push was back at Verizon. I worked at Verizon Communications as an OpenStack engineer at the time. And the reason that we had brought OpenStack in was to run Cloud Foundry on top of it. So I was part of the engineering team there, and as we built more and more foundations on top of Cloud Foundry, I got more curious about what was running above the line, and so the Pivotal team at the time pulled me aside and showed me that whole new world, right? Like So this is how we're getting apps into production and on top of OpenStack. And the story kind of wrote itself from there. I ended up at Pivotal and now at Broadcom.
Yeah. We were talking in the green room. We'll see how this goes over. But, Brian's first CF push, first time he saw it, he got so excited he felt like he was cheating on his wife. That's what he told us. Well, I ain't seen anything get me this excited in a long time. That's awesome.
It did remind me of like the first time I saw vMotion, like kind of that fundamental, like, oh, this is going to change a lot.
Yep.
Right.
Feeling that you get.
Yep. And you got to see it from both sides, Brian. And, absolutely, definitely, Chris, don't think we're getting on. I just want to get the first time caller stuff out. But, you've got to see it from both sides, because when you're at VMware, you were working on the Kubernetes stuff. You were working on the Cloud Foundry. So, you got to see the compare and contrast between each of those. And, I'm going to ask you the hard question. What's your preference?
It's Cloud Foundry. I mean, it has a special place in my heart just because I ran a Cloud Foundry team for a long time. Yeah. But also the simplicity of it. I've also been in the Kubernetes space for a long time, and I know the complexity that can derive from trying to build solutions on top of Kubernetes. Not saying that there's not a place for that, but for a large number of use cases, man, Cloud Foundry, you just can't beat the CF push experience.
Excellent.
Music to my ears.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, quick shout out to Keith dialing in again. We'll have to get you back on the show, but hope all things are going well there. But okay, let's think here. So, Chris, you've been on. This is maybe your third or fourth time on the show, I think.
Four times.
Right, yeah. Well, you can count better than I can. But we talked a little.
I think other than DMZ, Chris may be and he may even be beating out DMZ. And DMZ's got his own series on this show. But I believe that you are the most showed guest on here.
Well, what about Mark? Hasn't Mark been on?
Oh yeah, I don't know. You're probably tied. I don't know.
I don't know.
I think Mark's been on. Yeah.
Okay.
Mark Fines. Yeah,
yep.
Findsy. Yeah. You're
the
definitely
mad
up
scientist
there.
Developer. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we have another mad scientist developer, right, on the show
we
too.
do.
Right? Yeah. So
yep.
yeah. So
right.
You've been talking a lot about CF Tool Suite. You're the author of CF Tool Suite. That's been around for, I don't know, however many years, and pretty well known in the CF community. You've been, we've featured that. We featured your work as you started to adopt some of that with, this generative AI stuff, right? And I think even like you were our third. I think episode 3 was when we first brought you on, and then I haven't quite followed all the other episodes. But we're here to talk about cf-kaizen, which is I think a newer addition to the CF Tool Suite. I think last time we talked about Sanford, but it's kind of like the latest rendition of your work with implementing generative AI technologies within CF Tool Suite. So can you, can we start out and share a little bit what is Kaizen and like what's going on with it? And then I know we have some demos we can show, and
sure.
Go from there.
So I guess we should start with, I think you kind of teed it up. You said, Tool Suite's been around for a while. CF Butler, CF Hoover UI. Butler kind of has the core responsibility of interacting with the foundation through the CF API and returning information. In addition, it does, when I say returning information, stuff like, hey, what's running on the foundation? What applications are running? Give me some application details, some service instance details, share some things around velocity and stuff like this, as well as like policies, which you can have just notifications or you can have action taking policies, right? And so as a consumer of Butler, prior to Kaizen, you had to know what are all the endpoints available that the CF Butler API is exposing, right? And know which ones, how to properly structure a request, right, and to interact with Butler. And so, we talked a little bit about Sanford and the use cases there. Sanford is just it's a kind of a showcase application that's meant to demonstrate interaction with a large language model to do things like use cases are like, document summarization, document search, web crawling, and things of this nature. And you can swap out different models and try them out. And I was like, I think we were talking about this. Nikki kind of threw down the gauntlet. He was like, well, what would it mean if you could interact with Cloud Foundry in this manner? Like, how about, providing an interface that allows operators to, or developers for that matter, kind of interact with Butler through a chat interface. And so that's where Kaizen was born. And it's leveraging, continuing to leverage, Java and Spring AI, and now Spring AI's support for model context protocol, which is, a specification that Anthropic released November last year, but it's gotten a lot of play. Pretty much all the major clouds have bought into it. Microsoft just recently. There's been massive dollar contributions to Anthropic from Google and Amazon. So it's got some, in a very short amount of time, it's gotten some play. So,
and Chris, I do want to back us up just for a second, because I think you're being a little too modest here, in my opinion. This is something that was built off CF Butler. CF Butler is a true OG when it comes to management of Cloud Foundry, right? I've used it. Nick's used it. Anybody that has ran a Cloud Foundry instance has used CF Butler, in my opinion, at least played with it. This is something that gives platform engineers a real insight into what's going on with their platform. So, I want to ask you just to kind of give another brief idea of what's going on with CF Butler and why Kaizen is going to be so important to it. And then I want to throw in, because of the way that this tool works and the importance that it had to platform engineers, one of the reasons that I threw that down is because CF Butler was more of a, it was just a platform engineer tool, but it gave things like, hey, we've got, these orphaned service instances out there. We've got, things that have been sitting unused for a while. Well, what if, you were able to open up CF Butler a little bit more to the developer side and have them ask questions? Hey, what are my instances that are out there that haven't been used? And I'm hoping that's where this is going, but I did want to back us up and make sure, if you haven't seen the CF Tool Suite episode, we'll link it in the show notes, but give just a real quick, hey, CF Butler, why'd you create it? And what was the use case for it? And that's going to, why did Kaizen come as a part of that?
Rewind the clock back 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a solutions architect with Pivotal. My first client was an aerospace, very popular aerospace client here in the Pacific Northwest. And I was paired with another solutions architect that maintained kind of the platform relationship. And I was out in the field engaging product teams. And we were trying to drive adoption and consumption of Cloud Foundry there. And the platform team was interested in getting a little more intimate. It's like, what the hell is happening on the foundation, or foundations were like, can we get a little bit more insight? And if you think back to that time, there weren't things like telemetry that we take for granted commercially. If you're running, Tanzu application service or what is now known as Tanzu platform for Cloud Foundry. So that started a collaboration. It's like, well, let's work together. Let's figure out what is it important to you that you would like to surface. And over, many months, it started off with just kind of simple inventory reporting, but then it kind of blossomed into what things can we do, like this whole policies aspect of Butler, where you can describe in some JSON, what would you like to have happen on some schedule, right? It could be, hey, I want to email a report of all my dormant workloads and send a copy of that report to those, let's say those product teams that have got those dormant workloads, and ask them to do something about it. It could be, hey, we're in the middle of, and we're blocked by being able to upgrade a stack. So we need you, product teams who are hanging out on an older stack, to upgrade your stack, like redeploy your application so that we can upgrade the platform. So and many other things. You can do action taking things, which is basically, hey, I see these orphaned services. I'm just going to go ahead and reap them, and I'll write a record for audit purposes. There wasn't a lot of uptake historically, by clients for the action taking policies, but I can see a place where that could be useful, maybe in your lower environments where you're wanting to maintain some hygiene. Right. In your production environment. I don't think you want to be doing that too much.
Yeah. Automated the removal of stuff from production is never a good idea. All right. So cf-kaizen. So we talked about this on the show. We threw down, a challenge to say, okay, what if we could communicate with CF Butler and have it give us information back in natural language? That's where you came up with cf-kaizen?
Yeah. So like what I was saying earlier, in order to interact with Butler or Hoover, you need to be aware of the endpoints. You have to structure a request appropriately, right? So you're using, Postman, curl, HTTP, name your favorite, client, and, you would have to programmatically sit down and do that. Well, what it would be like if, hey, uninitiated, I walk up to an interface and I just ask a question and let a model figure out what's the appropriate tool to call, the tool being the endpoints from Butler, to give me a response. And that's it. That's the nuts and bolts of it. So, dive down a layer into kind of like implementation concerns. It's leveraging Spring and Spring AI. It's leveraging Model Context Protocol. There's a client that you have to deploy and a server part that you have to deploy. So if you think about an end-to-end request, the user walks up to the browser, goes to the URL, gets a chat interface. We're going to show this here, hopefully. You're going to type in a question, and it's going to come back with a response. Well, what happens when you ask that question? It takes your question, delegates to the model. The model is aware of the tools, right? So what it's going to do is it's going to say, hey, well, what's available for me to answer this question? Looks like this tool is the one that would be the most appropriate to invoke, or it might be a collection of tools. I might have to make multiple calls in order to facilitate an answer to the request. And so it goes ahead and does that. So the client then delegates to the server. The server has the tools. The server is just a facade for Butler endpoints. So it basically goes to the server, and the server makes a request to Butler, and then it passes back, and you get your response back. And that's it, basically. And we have a client and a server in Kaizen for both Butler and for Hoover.
Nice.
And what's the difference between, why would you want to run one or the other? With Butler, you're working with an individual foundation. So as a platform engineering team, you might be running multiple foundations. So if you want to work with individual foundations or ask questions of a target foundation, you could configure a number of clients. Or you could use Hoover. And Hoover, the way Hoover works is you register Butler endpoints, and it goes off and on your behalf will kind of gather the information from all the individual Butlers, aggregate, and then allow you to interact with Hoover to, ask questions.
So Hoover's a contract company.
Yeah.
And its employees are Butler, and they all report back to Hoover. All right. So, we've all used this, Brian, you're sitting there quiet. I'm going to drag you into this conversation, kicking and screaming. I mean, have you ever used Butler? Is this something that you had used when you were running platform teams?
So we explored it at Verizon. We ended up with a lot of our own custom reporting, but I do want to highlight the value, the larger the environments and the number of foundations that you have, especially in large organizations, the more value something like this would provide. You don't realize how much in just time like, we ran a small platform team servicing tens of thousands of developers, how much time our small team spent fielding questions about what was running on the foundation, questions that Kaizen can answer in natural language. It's in, back then we could expose the API endpoints to them and say, hey, you can go answer these questions yourself, but 99% of them aren't going to figure out how to call those endpoints. A lot of them are, these are higher level managers asking these questions that aren't going to write scripts. Now they could just go to and use a natural language and get their answers without bothering the engineers. So definitely wish we had tools like this back then.
Oh yeah. Well, and then I think even from what we've seen with the work within the Gen AI tile, a lot of the we'll call them early adopters, in addition to the actual business applications, they're all trying to do similar things too, where how can we take this technology and help reduce our burden of operational burden. Can we hook this up to some of our chat channels, or can we get something cf-kaizen to help just answer questions that these MCP agents, these LLMs can kind of do for us now. So I guess without further ado, Chris, do we want to kind of jump into some demos and maybe we can
I'm excited to
some
see
more
this
conversation?
I mean, again, I'm going to go back to CF Butler was one of the OG tools. I mean, it's right up there with CF Management. These are tools that if you've ever played with Cloud Foundry, you need to know these tools. So I'm always astonished by what Chris is able to bring into the CF tool suite and how he's able to bring in new features. But Chris was doing multi-foundation management with CF Butler before multi-foundation was even a thing or even cool. And I think that's a huge highlight to make here. So I'm excited to see what we do with this.
Okay, give me a moment here and I will bring up my screen. Let's see, share screen. It's asking me to allow.
Uh-oh. He's going to have to go out and come back in, I bet. Nah, good.
Does that work? All right, so now hopefully I'm sharing. Y'all seeing this?
All right, bringing you up. Yep, if you could make that bigger.
Make it bigger. That is let's see, I think this is what, preferences, and I need to get what, colors, compatibility, text. Where's text?
I'm seeing a better use for our green room there, Nick, instead of us just, making jokes and talking about glare off our foreheads.
How about that? Probably going to be obnoxious.
Perfect.
How's that?
Yes, let's do it.
That's pretty large, man.
Oh,
right.
I guess side note, what Joey did last week was genius, right? Because he's I'm gonna share my Mac screen, and I was like, oh, that's gonna force the res down, and I was like, oh, that's I never thought of that, but I was like, next time I'm gonna share on here, it's gonna be my Mac screen. But anyway, that aside.
All right, let's see. Let's see what the heck is running here.
Oh, I love it. This is perfect. I can read. Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So we are, let me back up here. I am targeting what I affectionately call Kuhn Labs, which is Nick's Cloud Foundry Foundation that he has graciously provided for me to kind of experiment with. And what I did in advance of this session was I deployed Butler and Hoover and what they needed in order to get up and running on the foundation. I put those in an organization and space that you see here. So there's that. And then in another organization and space, I put Kaizen stuff. So let's take a look at what we've got here. All right, so we have, as I mentioned, we have the front end, which is the client, and the back end or server piece, right? Right now, I only have the client and server running for Butler. And so, as I mentioned before, the front end is the actual web interface. We'll get to that in a moment. And the server piece is the thing that's interacting with Butler, the instance of Butler. So let's go visit the interface here. Copy.
While you bring that up, quick shout out to Keith. They often refer to my my lab as US East 3. So, and it's definitely growing. So hey, well, I can't really stop it at this point. All right. So yeah, so we have the Kaizen front end. Okay.
So this is a simple interface. Things that I wish to happen in the future, things that I'm working out and working through is it's great that I've got an interface, but it'd be more helpful if the interface would, as I bring it up, tell me what it's capable of doing, as opposed to me guessing. Right now, I just know, hey, I'm in the Butler front end, and I have this very simple interface with, ask me a question. So let's go ahead and do that. Are there any stopped applications? And it looks like it's hallucinating right now because app 1 and app 2, it's not correct. But we'll fix that. That's great. I love problems like this. But just some other things that you should see here and note is it went out to a model, right? And, Nikki and Nick have had many shows where they've dived into the topic of the Gen AI tile on a Tanzu platform for Cloud Foundry. So, these applications are interacting with a service instance. And it's basically that service instance is a service offering from the Gen AI tile. It's the Mistral Nemo model. The amount of time it took to actually come back with a response was 2 seconds. The number of input tokens was 191, number of output tokens, 16, the total number of tokens, and then a token rate, right? And then here we have kind of a running chat history. So it's basically the same question, and it will maintain a rolling history of the last 10 questions that you've asked. So this is not good, right? We don't want this thing hallucinating on us. So we should be curious as to why this is happening and try and sort it out.
I love this. I love the fact that we're seeing this, right? Not everything's perfect. This is all the point of, getting in and experimenting with this stuff is to find out why these things happen, make them better. So, sucks for you on the demo gods, right? Demo gods coming back to bite you in the butt here, but I like that this happened because we get to see some of the things that customers are going to see in real life.
For sure.
Yep. Well, it's all about getting into it too. And then, I mean, if you're, I don't know, what do you have to troubleshoot here, Chris? But a lot of this too is that, we had an episode with Corby and Kurti about where they kind of introduced this concept of MCP and like how you can use Claude desktop and things. But like Chris has really gone a step forward, and we're starting to run apps on top of CF that can do some of these things. And you're no longer bound to the concept of only being able to use like a chat client on your desktop, and then even we're actually using some of these vendored Bosch deployed models as well. So definitely a lot more customer facing, or a lot more customer close to what we see within our customer base of kind of, keeping it within your four walls, so to speak.
For sure. So, again, Nick has provisioned a number of models via the Gen AI tile. And so we can go to the marketplace and get a listing of available models to consume. And each model has a set of capabilities, right? And it's important to note that for Kaizen, at least for the clients, you need to interact with a model that has chat and tools capabilities. So it's very important that those flags are set when you provision the model in the Gen AI tile. As well, in the selection of your model, wherever you sourced it from, whether that's Olama or Hugging Face or whatever, wherever, just because you might flag a model with a capability doesn't necessarily mean that model is capable. right? So you need to be very careful when you go out and you source your models. Just understand that Pi 4, for example, versus Pi 4 Mini. Pi 4 Mini has tools capability, but Pi 4 doesn't, for example. So just, be careful there.
Good tip for those that are wanting to try this out.
And so just to validate that we've got a service binding here, if we look at the services, we have an instance of the Gen AI, which is this plan, right? And it's bound to the front end here, right? Okay, so now let's figure out why we're getting hallucinations here. So the first place I'm going to stop is the front end, because I want to take a look at what was the last request we made. Let's see, front end. I'm such a poor typer. Recent.
Well, and it's always harder when you got people watching you.
Yeah. This is live debugging. We're teaching everybody how to fish. It's even better. Let's see here.
Okay, so it looks like we got a little bit of a exception going on here. This is pretty big. I want to get to the top of it. Okay. Okay, so we had a premature close exception. That's fine because it reestablishes the connection when it needs to. That's not the exception that I'm interested in. Or is it? Let's do this. I'm going to do the simplest thing that I know how to do is I'm going to restart. Let's restart the server.
Pro move.
No.
It's the Windows approach.
Yeah, did you turn it off and on again?
That's right.
Let's do this. Paste. And then we'll restart the front end. And we'll try again and see what happens.
So your server, that's written in Java as well?
Yes.
What versions are you using? Did you try any of the native stuff with this, or are you?
I am on the bleeding edge of Spring AI. I'm using the snapshots right now. Nice. And to your question, am I compiling this into, for example, native image format? No, not yet. I am making use of, as you see, the Java build pack, and so that's what's running.
Oh, I just heard Deshaun roll his eyes at you.
Yeah, well, Deshaun, dude, we need to get together. You've promised to collaborate with me on the Carifi deployment of this stuff. And we can get into that a little bit later, but let's see. What was I doing? Okay, so we restarted the server. We want to do the front end. And once that gets started, we'll ask the question again. See if we get a better answer. See if we get a correct answer. The correct answer should be that, yes, there are stopped applications, because if we, let's go back to here. If we do apps, we should see that we have a stopped app here. All right, at least one. Okay. Did we? Oh, looks like we did restart. So let's copy this question. Let's refresh the page. Okay. Let's
Still refreshing.
That. Is it not letting me?
Maybe kill the tab. We'll blame Chrome or whatever browser you have.
Yep. Whoops, that was not what I wanted. I thought I had copied the
route.
Yeah.
And this is the beauty of live shows.
Yeah. Okay.
There we go.
So, are there any stopped applications?
How many days inactive should we consider an application to be stopped? 2 weeks. Oh.
Ha! Wow. So this must be my prompting, which I probably need to work on. I'd rather it be a little bit more direct. Wow. That's confirm.
Do you want to know your stopped apps? Yes. Are you really sure you want to know your stopped apps? Yes, I do.
Oh man, it's getting real spicy with you.
That's right.
It's getting real spicy with me. I wonder what is going on here. I think I might have sabotaged myself by deploying something last minute, and I shouldn't have.
Can you roll back?
I could, but I'd have to build and all that good stuff.
I see.
So
You know what? This stuff happens on shows. This is great. This is we're showing some live debugging. You're seeing some of the issues that can happen with AI. But, I will tell the audience, you're going to have to take our word for us. This works.
No,
and it works cool.
We're not doing word for it. We're going to prove it here. I think.
Do we need to, Brian? Do you want to tag you in?
Yeah, I was going to ask. So in my environment, it's not connected to Nick's lab, but it's connected to another lab with Kaizen in it. The difference is I'm still using the OpenAI model, the public one, not the Gen AI. So that would be the only difference. But I have a Kaizen endpoint you can talk to if you want to ask questions.
Yeah, why don't we do that just to prove that we actually have this? I got a little over ambitious this morning, thinking I could demonstrate some.
And I have to say, I saw this working yesterday and working really well. So
it will. Yes. I promise you. It will.
It's always those last minute. Hey, I just want to add this one thing before the show goes live, and the next thing you know,
yeah. All right. Do we want to flip over to Brian's screen now? Are we ready for that, guys?
Yeah. Let me.
We're gonna add the stage.
Stop screen and let him.
There we go.
All right. So the difference in this environment is I'm using a open source UI project called LibreChat. It's the only one I found out there in the ecosystem that has native MCP server support. So I know that like Open Web UI is working on native MCP support, and I'd love to give this demo where like Open UI was running on the foundation and the entire thing was local to a foundation. But for this demo, I am running LibreChat locally, and I'm using the OpenAI public API, not a Gen AI tile. But imagine a world where you have this all on a CF foundation. Now I am talking to the MCP servers are running on CF. Kaizen is running on CF. Butler and Hoover are running on this CF foundation.
Well, the rate of change that we're seeing in the AI space is just, Nick was saying in the last show, it's hard for him to keep up with, the change log that's going on with all this stuff. So, this is something that we're probably going to see in a week or two, probably not months.
And one of the cool things you can do in LibreChat is create agents. So what I did was create an agent called Kaizen. I give it a system prompt that, hey, you're a Cloud Foundry administrator, you have access to these tools. And then further down, you can actually specify which tools they have access to. So these are all of the tools that are exposed by the Kaizen and Butler MCP servers. So you could go in here into this catalog and add and remove any tools that you want this agent to have access to. So I've got it. It's got access to everything. But so what was the question we were going to ask? Are there any stopped applications?
Right.
Is LibreChat like a desktop client?
It's running in a Docker container. I happen to be running it locally, but you could run it remote.
Gotcha.
So I may actually not have any stopped applications because I think everything in my environment is running. So one of the questions I had been asking it was like, what application has the most, no, I can't type, application instances?
Ooh, good question.
The application Spring, and that's correct. So the application Spring Music is running 4 instances right now.
Yeah, that app's been used a lot. It's running hot, right?
It is. Yep. It is. So when I originally gave this demo, I asked it to scale down But we want our customers scaling up, right? So,
yeah, because they got an alert that some an increase in traffic. We need to increase throughput, right?
Exactly. So I say, can you scale this application up to 5? Now, Kaizen, the endpoints that Kaizen exposes can't do that. So I'm expecting a no answer. But as part of my prompt, I told it I have another AI agent named Cody, who's an application operator, who has access to a different set of tools than Kaizen. So it's telling me Cody is an esteemed application operator who can assist me. So now I can do @Cody.
Oh, okay. I see what's going on here. So this is the agents are talking to each other. Yep, this is where it all goes downhill, Nikki. Skynet's not too far away.
This is where Skynet comes.
That's exactly how I felt building this the other day.
Let's go ahead and mark the time. It's March 20th at 11:43 Mountain Time.
Yeah.
That is when Skynet became aware.
Yeah. Born in Nick's data center. Yeah.
So I'm not even going to repeat the request because I'm carrying the context of my conversation over from one agent to the next. So Cody says, sure. It seems that scaling up to 5 exceeds my memory quota. Okay, this is new.
Oh, snap.
That is nice.
Are you at the default 10 GB or something? Where are you at? Or what's your...
Yeah, the quota default is 10, and I bet this is a 2 gig app. So
can you ask? Can you ask your foundation what your quota is?
Let's see. This is turning out to be a better demo than I thought. So now it's referring me to Alana, who, so Cody, I gave very restricted permissions. Cody, I said, you can only stop, start, and scale, right? Those are what app operators typically do.
Yeah.
Now you're getting into real Skynet territory because Alana has administrator access. I was terrified giving an LLM administrator access to my foundation.
So what could go wrong?
Yeah, exactly. So let's see how Alana can help us. Alana, can you answer that question? So there isn't a specific quota set, which is true. I'm just using the default, but it didn't tell me what the default is. So,
can you ask it? What's the org I'm running in, and what's the org quote?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
KW. So that was the org that I am using. So instead of scaling up, maybe we scale down. So we go back to Cody because Alana cannot scale. Alana's going to say that I don't do that. That's Cody.
So this is very interesting to see how your agents are aware of each other and how they're communicating back and forth, or telling you how to communicate back and forth, which is not that much different than an IT team, right? Hey, Brian, can you go do this for me? No, go talk to Chris. Chris is the one that does that stuff.
I'm just waiting for the network security team to be pulled in here and some.
Fortunately, my environment's one that you can trash. Nick, could you give me administrator access to your environment? I promise my agents won't do anything.
Oh, we'll talk about that offline here.
All right, so it seems that even scaling down to 3 instances exceeds your memory quota. That's very interesting.
Well, that's Now I think we're getting into a little bit of a hallucination territory.
Right.
So
I'm wondering.
Jobs. Yeah, exactly. So I'm wondering if the context of this conversation is starting to get too much and it's getting confused.
Right.
So I'm just going to start a new one. Can you scale down Spring Music to 3 instances? There you go.
There you go. All right.
Nice. Very cool.
So I don't know, Chris, how long Kaizen would take to pick up on the change.
Right. That's great. You know what? It brings up 2 or 3 different tracks of conversation, but I want to stay with this. What I find really interesting here is you're using a client that is capable of, number one, being aware of different servers that are exposing tools and allowing you to filter the tools that it understands how to interact with. Plus, you can onboard a number of servers with roles. You just said, hey, I'm going to create an agent. The agent is kind of like an identity or somebody who has specific, awareness of how to do X, Y, and Z things, right? And so right through LibreChat, you can onboard all these different servers, give them different identities and capabilities, right? And then switch between them. Like ask them to say, well, I don't know how to do this, but this other person does, right? This other agent does. It's fantastic.
Now I'm going to bring in the security questions. I'm going to channel my inner DMZ here. So, one of the questions I would ask is, Brian, can you only allow access to say Cody or Alana for certain people? Is there a way to do that? I think it's very cool to watch the agents and how you've got to talk with different agents. It's like you've got your own IT team here in your pocket, but I don't want, Nick to be able to go in and scale an instance. That's something only Chris can do. So he should be the only one that can talk to Cody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. I haven't explored like all of the features within LibreChat, but I can definitely see a world where you're building agents, and now you need to structure permissions around these agents because maybe you only want certain people to talk to certain agents or certain agents to talk to each other.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the benefits that I would see from something like Kaizen is, we're going to open this up to developers to go in and ask questions and learn stuff, but we may not necessarily want them being able to go in and take direct action. Or, even things to simplify a lot of the service tickets that we say today could go through Kaizen and through what you're showing us here, Brian, to say, hey, I'm a developer. I need to up my quota. Can I up my quota? And then seeing that kind of go to an agent, and then an agent pops up and, ask, Nick, hey, Nick, is this okay to do this? This was requested by Chris. I could see use cases where this automation would be helpful and kind of take the place of service tickets. Because you have an IT team in your pocket right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I just pulled up the mixture of agents options that are available. So you can chain agents together. So like if I ask Cody to maybe stop an application and Cody can't do that, I could have Cody chain to Alana. So Cody says, no, I can't, but Alana can. And then Alana would just go and do it.
Right.
You can set up patterns like that.
That's very interesting.
And so we're just using like these agents are just using like some of the CF like MCP servers on the back end essentially with different permission sets.
Exactly. So it's talking to 3 servers right now. It's talking to Kaizen Butler, Kaizen Hoover, and there's a third one called Cloud Foundry MCP. I think Corby may have shown this in a previous Weekly. But that one is set up with administrative credentials. Don't do this at home. Don't expose an MCP server with administrative credentials to your foundation. But you want to structure like security around that as well. So let's not show this to David just yet.
We got to work on our security proposal yet. We need a security agent in there that just declines everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and we make jokes. I do think this is how the iteration of things go. They start with an idea. This is a great idea. It's building on top of another great idea, which was CF Butler, and it's giving this access. As these things iterate, this is where you come up with these winning ideas is, hey, we started with something that allows you to do everything. And then somebody's going to ask the question, well, I don't want Nick having access to the foundation on his own data center, right? I want to be able to cut that out. That's how these products grow. And this is impressive. I like the ability, I'm going to keep saying this, an IT team in your pocket. This is turning, agentic AI is going to turn developers and platform engineers into little mini CEOs of their own company, where they're going to have agents that are going out and doing these things for them. And I think that's huge.
Yeah. And the first thing I thought of when Chris showed me the Kaizen demo was like, as a platform team, I'd love to set up a chat bot that my development community can talk to, and it would have read-only access, and it would only have access to maybe the orgs and spaces that are necessary to show certain app teams. Right. Like I said, build those gates so that information is secure, but now you have an agent that can like field 50% of the requests that come in to your team and free up the team to build more agents. Do whatever they do.
It's a log reader agent. Number one, like, why is my app broken?
Yep.
Let me read your let me read your logs. Oh, I see a stack trace. I think your database died. Oh, they reduce 50% tickets right there.
100%. That's the first thing that developers, hey, my app's broken. Did you read your logs? No. All right. Well, now you got an agent that'll go do that for you. Now you lay off your platform engineers a little bit, right?
And I don't know if that Cloud Foundry MCP supports exposing the log, like if you could do CF logs with it. If you can, that would be pretty trivial to set up like this. That would be a great tool to have.
Well, and I could see, just on the security issue, right? I could see you doing this as multiple installs. Here's a workspace. Here's a URL that's got single sign-on to it that we're allowing people to. It's got access to all the agents. They can go do everything. Here's another URL to another instance that only allowing people to ask questions. It's a read-only instance. So I could see something like that as an interim. I mean, nobody's going to want to run, 5, 10, 20 different iterations of the same program for users. But as a way to get started, I could see that as a possible use case in a way that you could get around this.
Well, you could even say, like, if you have like credentials to your current deployment, like you could take some of this stuff and run it like in your space as like just deploy it. Like, I'm not saying that people would or whatever, but like you could totally do that and just say, hey, like teams could even like help automate their own tasks with it based on their own current permissions. So like even from a security perspective, it's like, you're not like, you already have these credentials. So you could do this already if you wanted to, but this thing could just do it for you. Like, so maybe that's an approach, right? But yeah.
Make it easier.
Brian mentioned earlier, he has two different servers. He's got Kaizen, but he also has, Corby's Cloud Foundry MCP. The distinction or the difference is Corby's implementation is real time. Like, it's going off and making a request with the permissions as configured to go and do the thing you're asking it to do. Kaizen is interacting with Butler, which, as you might remember, it's working with snapshot information. So Butler wakes up on some pre-configured interval, goes out and does some collection and caches that. And then subsequent requests, anything that you're wanting it to provide you, is going to work off that snapshot. So it's not going back to the Cloud Foundry API for that. And so that's the difference. One of the things that I had been working on in advance of this show that I just couldn't get done because of serialization, deserialization stuff that's fun, is I wanted the interface. I wanted to improve the prompt, the system prompt, to say, here are the things you should be aware of when you are, and you could see as it was being very kind of like iterative in asking. I think that was maybe being a little over aggressive and asking for details before providing the answer. But what I want it to do is that with each response is to come back and say, this is as of this collection time. Yeah. So the user has some awareness of the fact that, hey, you're working with data as of this particular point in time. So that may or may not have value for you, but I think about it in terms of like, as a platform team, you might be working with large swaths of data. And you don't want to hit the CF API to go and get everything in real time. You want it to work with something that, has already kind of been done in advance for you. So stuff like that.
Well, and that's a great point that I was getting ready to jump in with is, people may ask, well, why wouldn't I want to call the API? Well, when you look at the foundation operations that are going on, CF pushes and everything else that are happening, you don't want to open this up to hundreds of developers to go in and start making data requests. And some of those data requests may come back very large as well. So this is, I think, a good segue is not the right word, but a good call out to why CF Butler and Hoover are so important, is because it's operating independently from the foundation itself. It goes and gets all the information. Yes, it's a snapshot in time, but very rarely are people I need to know what it's doing right this second. We're looking for averages. We're looking for aggregates, mostly when we're looking at data.
Well, even then too, when we like what are my stopped applications, or like when I remember back in the day, what are my apps that are in crashing status, right? Because like you would get like teams and they're like, all right, I'm gonna go to push this app, and then it blows up, and they just leave it, and it's just constantly crashing and loop back and just out there hanging out there. It's like, well, just trimming or like purging the crashed apps out of the system can save up a lot of resources, because developers aren't always the best in hygiene, especially with cloud resources. So just like having it scan for show me all my crashed apps and go clean them up for me. They've been crashed for 30 days. Pretty safe bet. We can go clean those up, type of thing, right?
Or not even going that far, but the self-healing nature,
right?
Yeah, I mean, the self-healing nature of Cloud Foundry is sometimes a detriment to it, right? People put these apps out that will crash on a regular basis, but it heals itself. It brings it back up. So being able to ask something like, show me all my apps that have crashed, in the last 36 hours, helps developers kind of realize there may be a problem out there that we're not seeing because the platform's taking care of it for us. But I still got something out there that's wrong. And I can see that as being a huge use, because, again, developers aren't always watching their logs and really, noticing when their apps are crashing on a regular basis.
And my closing thoughts, back to the security topic, was you think about all the information that's coming across here. There's sensitive information in these reports that come from Butler and Hoover. There's sensitive information interacting with the API. You need to do this on a local model. This all needs to be within your four walls.
Yep.
I wouldn't do this against, I'm doing it now against OpenAI, but I wouldn't recommend anyone do that.
Do not do what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, we can onboard you to the Coon Data Center lab, and we'll get you sorted there.
Yeah, so watch some of these other open source projects like Open Web UI when they come out with the MCP support. You'd be able to easily push that UI to CF, or use Chris's UI. You can. There are ways around these problems to do a full CF version of what I just showed.
And Chris, I'm assuming. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, LibreChat is really cool. I'd love to figure out a way to get that being deployed, kind of like Open Web UI is on Cloud Foundry, because that, from an administrative aspect, lets you create these agents, right? And then you can pick and choose behind the scenes what permissions these agents actually have and what tools they're actually exposing. The only other interesting thing would be how many instances of LibreChat would you have for different persona and purposes, right? You could kind of do security by obscurity that way, but it's good. It's cool. One last little thing about security, the way Butler works and has since its inception, is you configure credentials, either username and password to get the token or a single sign-on refresh token. And that's how Butler works. It works with just that credential. It is not asking for a credential of a user coming at it. It's using a credential that's been configured with. So if you're using a credential that is read-only, well, that's only going to be able to do read-only operations. If you give it a credential that's more permissive, and you're working with policies that can do destructive actions, you got to be careful who you put that in the hands of.
Yeah, and we configured that. So we did use that. So we when I was running it, I'd run two different instances. There was the platform engineer instance that had full credentials, and then the one that I put out for everybody, using read-only admin. So full access to everything, but couldn't perform any functions. And Chris, I'm guessing cf-kaizen, just like Tool Suite, this is, you've got it out there. You accept PRs. I encourage people to go look at the repo. And, Chris is doing all this stuff by himself. He's made tools that a lot of people use, but Chris, you accepting PRs if people want to get involved?
Of course. I just did this morning. Brian posted something and I merged it. So yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
We'll make sure we get the links in the show notes when we go out with this, but this is another example of AI and how AI can make us better. I love, and I'm going to keep using the analogy of, we're turning people into little mini CEOs. You got an IT, department in your pocket, because it's 100% true. It's going to be a force multiplier for what everybody's doing. But anybody that's out there, if you're good at AI, you like Java, reach out to Chris, start looking at his code, make some PR requests. This is community. Nothing more important than community.
Yeah, and if you're out there running Cloud Foundry, you want to see this, in your foundations, let us know.
Mhm.
We'll help you out. Okay. Any? I guess. I mean, we're already at the hour, which I feel like we just started a few minutes ago.
By so
Any?
fast.
Yeah. Any other closing thoughts from our guests?
Keep on CF pushing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like it.
And then my obligatory. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And
You need a
thumbs
smaller
up.
pillow, my friend.
I tried to find one on Amazon. Everything seemed to be this size. Yeah, I know it's not the greatest. Or I could just spend 5 minutes and get it in a stream and StreamYard. Just hit a button, banner go up. But whatever. You should like and subscribe.
Yep. This is how you get all the new information about Cloud Foundry. This is how you get the new information about what's coming out. So absolutely reach out to us. We're all available. We'll put Brian, are you okay if we put your LinkedIn on the show notes?
Yeah, definitely.
We'll put your LinkedIn. We've already put Chris's out before. We'll link that in there. But got questions? You got something that you want to see in the future? Reach out to me and Nick. You got questions on cf-kaizen and the tool suite? Reach out to Chris and Brian. And make sure you look at cloudfoundry.com.
Or cloudfoundryweekly.com. And now
That's
Brian,
what I meant.
Yes. Well, I mean, you can look at cloudfoundry.com too. I'm pretty sure that's gonna take you to a good place too. But Brian, prop quiz, right? Do you know how we close the show?
Oh no.
I know Chris knows. So yeah, we got Joey with us last week too. But we I think our first show, it was provided via chat how we close it, CF by. And then I'll do a countdown with 3, 2, 1, and we'll CF by, and that's how we close the show. So
all right, till next week.
3, 2, 1, CF
CF
by.
CF by.